Hi, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Front Porch Conversations. Today our guest is Patty Gianeskis. Patty, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, thank you.
And being here at the Village has been how long for you?
15 years. Dino had known about this place for a long time because he used to live and work up in Live Oak. But I would come and visit, sometimes we would visit family in this area, and we would stay at the lodge, which was just delightful. It's got that big old front porch and the ceiling fans and rocking chairs looking out over the Swanee River, and it was just really nice, and we always enjoyed that. One day we were visiting, and we went for a ride around just to see a little bit more of the Village. We knew the square, and I had loved shopping in the shops, but we found that there was a place called Riverwoods, a neighborhood, and we rode around some of the roads there and just thought it was such a nice place to be. It had so much personality. The houses, each one was individual, not those cookie cutter neighborhoods like you see so many of, especially here in Florida. So we looked at it and we liked it and talked about the old growth trees and everything. We found a house that had a for sale sign. So we called the number on the sign, and the people were available and they let us look at the house. I liked it, he liked it, and ultimately we moved up here. I've never regretted it.
And moved up here from where?
From Tarpon Springs. That's my hometown. Tarpon Springs is an interesting little town. There's a very strong Greek presence there, and Dino Gianeskis is part of that Greek presence there. His family came over from the island of Symi in Greece. Tarpon Springs was populated by a lot of Greek people starting in the early 1900s. There was sponging in the Gulf of Mexico, and of course there's a sponge industry over in the Greek islands. So when people would come over here, they had a vocation that they were able to pick up and go with, and that turned out to be a very good thing for them. Dino's grandmother was one of those immigrants, she and her husband. And she is credited with starting the very first curio shop at the sponge docks in Tarpon Springs. There are now a lot of them. But if you're ever in Tarpon Springs, walk along and look at those gift shops, and over one of them you'll see Gianeskis Gift Shop. So
I guess I need another trip there because I was there a couple of years ago and didn't see that.
Well, I'll help you look.
Thank you. And they do have some very good Greek restaurants.
Oh, yes, they do. We joke that our favorite Greek restaurant in Swanee County is my house.
That would probably be a very accurate description.
Well, the community of Tarpon Springs really does embrace the Greek culture. I graduated from Tarpon Springs High School, as did Dino, and our mascot for our sports teams are called the Fighting Spongers. You're not going to find that anywhere else.
I'm probably sure you're correct. Well, speaking of this time of year, Epiphany is a very special time in Tarpon Springs.
Yes.
Would you share with us about that?
It's January the 6th, and it's every year. Tarpon Springs hosts the largest Epiphany celebration in the United States. In the Greek Orthodox faith, the Epiphany celebration commemorates when Jesus was baptized, and a lot of the events that take place during the celebration are reflective of what you read in Scripture. John the Baptist immersed Jesus in the Jordan River, and then the Holy Spirit descended like a dove. That day is a big day of celebration. When I was growing up, the schools were closed in Tarpon Springs on Epiphany Day because everybody was participating or visiting. And it starts with a church service at the Greek Orthodox Church, followed by a parade through the streets of the town. And that parade culminates at Spring Bayou, a beautiful body of water that is nicely landscaped because a lot of people come and they want to watch the ceremony. It's lined with grassy slopes, and there's a concrete walkway around the body of water and a pier that juts out into it. And I might be using the wrong term, but that's just what I'm going to call it, concrete and brick. So that juts out into Spring Bayou. And on Epiphany Day, there's a semicircle of, I don't know how many, dinghies that are tied near that wharf, whatever it is, pier. And the ceremony culminates there. The priest and a young girl and some other dignitaries walk out onto the pier. At one point, the young girl releases, I think it's a white dove. It's a dove, but I'm pretty sure it's always white. Then the priest blesses a cross, and he throws it into the water. And what I didn't mention is those dinghies are filled with Greek boys, high school age Greek boys. When he throws that cross, those Greek boys dive into that water. There's a lot of splashing going on. And eventually one of the boys retrieves the cross, and when he comes up with it, he is said to have special blessings for a year. The day is just one of a lot of ceremony and a lot of fun activities. It ends with a ball that evening, the Epiphany Ball. So it's a big event, and as I said, a lot of people like to come and watch it.
And at least it's not in New York City, because on January 6th, it would be a big chilly dive right into the water. It's probably not hot there on January 6th.
It's not hot, but do remember, this is a spring bayou.
Oh, yeah, it would be hot.
Yes. And during the winter time, we do get manatee that come up in there because the water temperature is pretty consistent. Now, I'm not going to dive in there voluntarily, but yes.
Well, Patty, thank you for sharing that, because one of the things we find when we have Front Porch Conversations, a lot of our members didn't grow up in Florida and don't know about all the special things.
Yeah.
So you're helping the tourism.
Good.
And based on that, you had sort of a travel career too, didn't you?
I did. I went to Florida State and I got my degree in communications, which was a very fun degree to study for. I could take a lot of different classes in different disciplines, linguistics, film as a communication device. But the one thing about that major is I graduated with no marketable skills, so I didn't know where I was going to go and what I was going to do. But I wound up being a travel agent. And that was a nice career to have. It was a fun job. It had some challenges with it. When I first started, things were not computerized. The airlines were, but the individual agencies, we were not. Ultimately, over my career, that became the norm for agencies to be computerized, but I knew the old days. When you're a travel agent, you are offered opportunities to travel. A hotel might offer you a package to come and visit, or an airline, or even a tourism board might invite you to their place. And those are nice. They're always fun. They're informative. The reason they do that, it's more of a marketing tool for them. Mm-hmm. I think the thought is, if a travel agent has experienced our product, that travel agent is more likely to sell our product. I can say from experience that that is true. If you know something, you can sell it better. So we were offered, they call them familiarization trips or FAM trips, and they are nice, but the one little glitch is the people going on these trips are travel agents. It's not travel agent plus one. Mm-hmm. So you have to travel as an individual. Mm-hmm. You meet other travel agents, so you're not really alone, but you can't take your best friend with you. So I was the only unmarried agent at the time in our agency, and that made me not hesitate to take a trip. I wasn't leaving anybody at home, mm-hmm. and I did get the opportunity to go to a lot of places. Technically, I have been to 6 of the 7 continents. Truthfully, Africa was a one-day trip to Casablanca, but I'm still going to count it. So,
yeah, I think if you get outside the airport, you can count it.
When I turned 30, I got 2 cards from friends that were sympathy cards. I guess 30 is a big milestone birthday for a lot of people, and they were so comforting. Patty, don't worry. I know this feels hard. It's going to be okay. And I told both of them, you know, I'm really kind of busy right now because I'm getting my visa to visit Australia and New Zealand. I don't think I'm going to be depressed.
But you know, that was probably my hardest birthday, was my 30th.
Is that right?
And I think kind of the era we grew up in, never trust anyone over 30. And now you're the adult. Oh my gosh. Even though I had a child by then, but
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And after that, it's like, oh my goodness, yay, I've had another birthday.
There is that.
I don't always remember the number on purpose, but. Well, let's back up a little bit and tell us about your early life.
I was born in Tallahassee. My father was getting his PhD in psychology at Florida State. Not too long after that, he got a job at the Georgia State Mental Hospital. And I guess it has another name now, but that's in Milledgeville. And we lived there for quite a few years. My brother was born there. After Daddy was ready to leave Georgia State Mental Hospital, he got a job at a small private mental hospital that was in Tarpon Springs. It was called Anclote Manor. No longer there, but that's where we stayed. And so Tarpon Springs is my hometown.
So Patty and I have that little connection of the state hospital in Milledgeville. No, I was not a patient. I was employed there for a while. And it was a very interesting job, but in the early 70s, the conditions were not good. And so I'm glad I've had that experience.
Mm-hmm. I was there before you. I was there during the 50s. So I have no idea because I was real young.
And yes, and at that time, it was the largest mental hospital in the world when I was there.
That's amazing.
Isn't it? 10,000 patients.
Goodness.
No, that was a whole different chapter in healthcare and mental health care. And,
Ooh.
Well, so you went to high school in Tarpon Springs. Well, you graduated from high school in Tarpon Springs. You went to FSU.
Yes.
You've been a travel agent.
Yes.
What's another exciting chapter in your life?
Well, I'm an aunt and I'm a stepmother, and I love both of those roles. I never had biological children, but I do love my nieces, and it was a blessing to live close by geographically. I think that provided me the opportunity to have a lot of fun times with those girls. Probably a good thing I'm not a biological parent because I'm not much of a disciplinarian, but I'm a pretty good playmate.
And what were some of your fun things to do with them as they were young?
I loved having tea parties with those little girls. And I've always enjoyed tea parties, but they just added a different dimension. I was an elderly bride. I got married at 38, and I already had my own home. Dino had his own home. So when we got married, we didn't need toaster blender kind of a thing. Two ladies that are my mom's friends and went to our church, they wanted to give me a bridal shower, and they came up with a unique idea. They gave me a teacup shower. I'd never heard of that before, and I've never heard of it since. But it turned out to have been a really nice thing for them to do for me. We had a good time that evening, of course. The women who came, each one brought a teacup. Some bought them at antique shops. Some ladies gave me teacups from their personal collection. I didn't know people had teacup collections. Now I do. But
and now you are one of those collectors.
I am. Well, I have enough.
Okay.
But for many years I did. When Dino and I would travel, I would go to little antique shops and find me a pretty little teacup. Not too long after we married, I gave a coffee or something at my home, and some of the women who had been invited to the teacup shower were at that coffee. What's interesting is, without exception, each woman who was at the shower chose her own teacup for her cup, because I had the assortment out. I still like giving tea parties. When we moved up here, there was a PAL program, a surrogate grandparent program through the church here. And my next door neighbor had a little pal. She was talking to me about wanting to find something to do with her pal. And I said, how about a tea party? Well, she jumped right on that. And a couple of other people who had their little pal, they came to my house one day and we had a nice time, fun tea party. At that tea party, I just was observing that those big little girls were having just as much fun with hats and scarves and scones. And so I just decided I would continue. having tea parties up here, and I have. I enjoy giving them, and my friends are very nice about coming to them. So that's a fun thing for me to do.
And that's something pretty unique to you, Patty.
Okay.
No, I mean, not that other people don't have fun doing it, but that's been just, to me, one of the things that I think about when I think about you is you and your tea
Okay, well,
parties.
good.
Because they're so special.
Well, good. Thank you.
You were talking about church.
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up attending church?
I did, because I'm Southern and I'm nice. In the South, nice people go to church. My family, Daddy had come to know the Lord at a young age, but he wasn't really that committed as a believer. My mother, my brother, and I did not have a personal relationship. But there came a time that I can't remember a time that I did not believe in God, and I always believed in Jesus. But it was that personal relationship that just wasn't there. And it wasn't there until I was an adult, I'm sorry to say, but I'm grateful to say that ultimately I came to know him. So.
And you continue at church in Live Oak? You're attending church in Live Oak?
Yes, I go in town, yes. I actually met Dino at a church. It was a small church that's near Tarpon Springs. He and I are both from Tarpon Springs, but we were a couple of years apart, so we didn't know each other at school. But one Sunday, the pastor of this small church, I was a singer, and he asked me if I would sing for his congregation. And I did that Sunday, and Dino happened to be there, and one thing led to another, and we got married.
Tell us about some of your volunteer activities here at the Village and other ways you've been involved as well.
Well, when I first moved up here, my next door neighbor let me know that as soon as I was unpacked, I would like to start volunteering. Not if, but when. And that was a good thing. I do volunteer. I started out as a volunteer with the retail shops, and I'm still doing that. I think that volunteering is just a very important thing in this village on a number of different levels. We have a lot of ministries here in the village that are made possible because of volunteers, and they are able to be as widespread as they are because of volunteers. From many different perspectives, volunteering in and of itself is a good thing for people, and I am a proponent of that. I like working at the shops, but another thing that I did was I would help to give tours to people to just show them what the village has to offer. There's a widespread perception of the village as old folks' home. I understand how that has come to be, and the Good Sam, the ministry that they do there and the work that they do there, that's very good, and it's very important for the village, but it's not all there is. There's a lot of living to be done here in the village. We were able to show people some of the different activities that they could take part in. Sometimes people would come to find a place for their parents or a loved one. We can show that as well. But I was able to do that, and I'm glad I was able to do that, because it helped me to understand more about how multifaceted life here at Advent Christian Village can be for us. So,
you know, you were talking about showing people for their parents.
Mm-hmm.
I've known of people who came to find out for their parents and moved here, and the parents said, "Not yet. I'm not ready."
Is that right?
Yeah. But you know, I always am a proponent of you need to move before you're ready.
Absolutely.
Or before you need.
Absolutely. When we moved here, it was 3 weeks after I turned 55. I have never regretted that. Now, I did not come to this village to die. There's a lot to do here. I'm glad that I'm here. As I said, no biological children. Mm-hmm. People who love me and will look after me. But this has a continuum of care that will be important to me as I continue to age. It's already getting a little bit more aged.
Well, and I think it's a great gift we can give our families is to make those decisions so that they don't have to make some that
Exactly.
would be a lot harder. And even if they're not even geographically close.
Exactly. Yes. And I do know people here who have done it for that reason. They've come here for that reason.
Patty, I know you live on a very beautiful wooded lot. Was that a part of what drew you? Was you and Dino the nature here? And
It was actually primarily more so for me, I think, the lot itself. We had been talking in vague terms about possibly one day maybe relocating from Tarpon Springs. One little glitch was he wanted to live in the middle of nowhere. I wanted to live in a neighborhood. When we found Riverwoods and our house, it was a lot that had a lot of trees on it, and it was a very pretty house, a brick house, which was important to him. But it has camellias. Oh, it has camellias. I one time counted the number of camellia bushes in our yard. I don't remember how many, but it's well over 20, might be closer to 30. My grandmother had a beautiful camellia garden in Bainbridge, Georgia. I grew up loving camellias, probably my favorite flower. We found our house in February, camellia season.
Mm-hmm.
So we walked out the backyard and looked at the camellias in bloom, and I looked at him and I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, you can make a bid on the house right now.
There are different things that attract different people, don't
Right,
they?
right. I do love the camellias. I'm not botanically talented, and a camellia is a very good plant for somebody like me to have. I enjoy picking the blooms. One of my things that I like to do is put them on a plate like my grandmother did. Mm-hmm. She would use wet cotton. I use wet paper towels. And you just place the blooms, different colors, and it's pretty. Then I tie it with some cellophane in a bow and give it as just a little cheerer upper for some of my friends. So I like that.
And it was already planted and already waiting for you.
That's right.
Patty, I know that you have had a love of music, and tell us about that and your singing.
We've had a piano. I have had a piano in my family, somebody in my family, since I was 7 years old. I used to ride horses, loved that. My mother did not. And one day, her worst fear was realized. I jumped my horse over a 4-foot fence. He made it beautifully. I fell and broke. And I had to recuperate after that because well, while I was recuperating, my mother was plotting. She wanted to keep me away from those great, big, dangerous animals. She came to me and she thought if she could redirect me, I would find something to do with my feet on the ground. She said, Patty, I would like for you to take voice lessons, and I would like for you to practice singing. If you will do that, I will pay for those voice lessons. Well, that worked. There was a lady in our church who lived in Mom's neighborhood. She had been a graduate of Florida State University music department. I took lessons from her, and she taught me how to sing better. I got to be known, and as I said, that's kind of how I got to have a husband. He saw me singing in a church one Sunday.
And I know you've done a number of musical presentations and been involved in other things.
Yes.
One of the things I always like when you do is, I like the music, but I like the way you research and tell people about the music. And
that's fun. It adds a little bit of dimension to what you're doing, not just standing up there and just singing. And yeah, I always enjoyed that. And I appreciate the opportunities you gave me here at the Village to do some of those programs.
Well, I'm glad that you said yes. A lot of people see me coming and go, no eye contact.
Yeah.
But you were always kind, even if you told me no.
Good.
What we talked about that you thought you didn't have a bucket list in the sense of you've been so many places, and that's what some people think about as a bucket list.
Yeah.
What are some things in your future that you're planning on?
Tea parties. I enjoy having people into my home for a tea party or for a meal. I enjoy that, and I think that that's very important. as a believer in Jesus Christ, I know that that's an important aspect of our lives as believer, hospitality, and I want to continue to do that.
And you have certainly been a gracious hostess to many, and I know you will be in the future.
Thank you.
But whether or not that's a great legacy that you pass on to your family and to others. And you have family in the area now, you said.
I do, yes. 2 of the children still live in Live Oak, so that's very nice, and I enjoy that.
You were sharing with me what you did last Saturday. I
went
fascinated
strawberry
about
picking. Yeah, I was cold. I went strawberry picking. Yes, that was fun.
And I had no idea there would be strawberries this time of year this far north.
There are.
There probably aren't today, but
Well, probably not today, but we've had a freeze. But yeah, there are, and it was a very nice venue. It was really a nicely put out way to do things. So,
well, and the advantages of having something to take home.
oh yes, yes, oh yes, yes.
My granddaughter well, she's 8 now, and a few years ago, it was great to take her strawberry picking because she was so close to the ground.
Oh, yeah, there is that.
Yeah. Well, with my grandson, he's a blueberry picker. He loves it, but he comes home blue.
Oh, yeah. I can understand.
Well, Patty, it has been so much fun sitting here visiting with you, and I know our friends who are watching and your friends who are watching on TV too will be happy that you were here.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Thanks so much, and tune in again to another Front Porch Conversation.